Whenever Killua Zoldyck as a character is mentioned, a few things typically pop up into people's mind, whether that be the white hair, the aesthetic that Killua has, the change of clothes, and the general cool look and feel that Killua gives off, and the really strong assassination-based combat style that he likes to fight in. One thing and one thought that never really pops into people's mind when talking about Killua, at least typically, is the idea or notion that he's actually a victim of mental manipulation and abuse by two very important people in his life. In this video, I will be diving into the manipulation and the kind of victim that I think Killua is subjected to within the realm of Hunter x Hunter by not only Illumi and kind of the entirety of the Zoldyck family, but by someone who is supposedly his best friend and the person who is supposed to stand by his side throughout the entire journey of Hunter x Hunter, Gon Freecss himself. If you guys are ready to dive into the depths of Killua's mind and the manipulation that many people around him and that should care for him are going to use on him, then this is the video for you. Let's dive right into it. Now, very quickly, before I dive in and get my hands dirty in my interpretation of Killua's journey with these two characters, I want to make a quick disclaimer. For one, when analyzing characters, themes, and the narrative of any series, whether it be comic books, manga, anime, whatever you tend to analyze or look into, there are always many different interpretations and multiple different ways that someone can extrapolate the writing that an author has put into their work. So just because I am saying that Gon and Illumi and the Zoldyck family are manipulating Killua and he's kind of a victim of this abuse, doesn't mean that you inherently have to take it as such. I'm going to be explaining my reasoning and kind of going into why I think this is the case, seeing as how recently on a reread of Hunter x Hunter, I've noticed a few things, kind of trends that fall into this mental manipulation category, and I felt like I really wanted to talk about it. Not only because it's an analysis style content, but also I feel like it can bring awareness to tactics that people like to use when they do mentally abuse people. So in that way, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'm able to kill two birds with one stone type of deal. In any case, let's dive right in, starting with the blood relative of Killua himself, Illumi. Illumi Zoldyck, Nen-type manipulator. Family of the Zoldicks, and assassin who is well trained and has even trained his younger brother Killua Zoldyck in the art of assassination. When analyzing Illumi, and especially with his relationship with Killua as characters, as brothers, and as fellow assassin Nen users, we see that it's very simple and plain to see that Illumi is a very manipulative, conniving, cunning, intelligent human being. We see in the Hunter exam, from the very start, where we see Killua and Illumi actually confront each other and actually have a brother-to-brother interaction, we do see that Killua, in his heart, holds an immense amount of reverence, fear-based reverence, mind you, but reverence nonetheless for his brother. When Illumi tells him that he is going to kill Gon and essentially put his life on the line, or put Gon's life at stake for Killua deciding to go against his family, Killua crumbles under this pressure and very easily gives in to his brother's demands. This is not only the first time, but also a very prime example of the manipulation type and way that Illumi goes about manipulating not only Killua, but people in general in the Hunter x Hunter universe. And that is through fear-based tactics. Now, later on, we do find out that part of this was due to the manipulation Nen that Illumi actually implanted into Killua's brain, making it so that Killua would naturally avoid people that were stronger than him and that he could assess were actually more powerful and more bigger threats than he was himself. But we also see that a lot of this is fear. Killua, when looking at Illumi for a large majority of the series, is scared of Illumi. He's wary of him simply because of his training and the kind of drilling that he's had since he was a child. In Illumi's case, we see that Killua isn't manipulated because he doesn't understand what Illumi's trying to do. He was manipulated by brainwashing. And this is a very common technique. People like to drill these ideas. They drill this one singular idea and point into someone's head when they're trying to manipulate them and get them to do things. A lot of the times, this is raising people to think certain things, raising people to have certain ideas and certain notions in their head, so that when that certain thing happens, you elicit a very predictable and calculated response. For example, due to his assassination training, not only brought up by just Illumi, even though he's the focus of who I'm talking about, but just in general by the assassination training that the Zoldyck family follows, Killua has been trained and drilled to avoid people stronger than him. He's been trained to be able to assess someone's power accurately at a glance and through very few exchanges. And if he does see someone stronger, does see someone that can hurt him, kill him, harm him, he is taught to avoid them at all costs. This is something that has been drilled into him since his birth. And this is also a very subtle form of manipulation. Because Killua's natural response is to run away from something stronger than him, Illumi knows very well that since he is stronger, since he not only is physically superior as the older brother and as the one who has more assassination experience, but he also has more Nen. He, at this point in time, legitimately has a whole dimension of power that Killua can't even comprehend, much less access. So we see that throughout a majority of the series, Illumi relies on fear-based tactics. He relies on Killua being scared of him, intimidated by him, fearful of him. And we see that this manipulation extends not just towards Illumi, but this manipulation extends towards Killua's entire outlook on life. We see anytime Killua comes across someone stronger, anytime Killua comes across a danger that he can't comprehend or fully understand, analyze, and break down, he buckles until a very developmental moment where we see him actually legitimately, it's kind of the physical embodiment of him ripping out these inhibitions and fears when he rips out the Nen needle that Illumi placed in him. But that's going a little bit far. We see that Killua is the victim of said abuse and mental manipulation throughout many examples of the series, one being one I've listed multiple times. Killua is very fearful of Illumi, but we also see other times where Killua backs off of opponents or comes up with strategies that are reliant on him essentially running away or taking a temporary loss in order to bypass a permanent loss of either a limb, permanent damage, or in the worst case scenarios, his life. Throughout his entire life, Killua has been conditioned and manipulated to think that whenever confronted by someone who could not even factually be stronger, whoever has the possibility of being stronger, the possibility of harming him, Killua fears and refuses to face. And this segues into the other, even bigger culprit of manipulation that I think Killua suffers from and is a victim to. And that's Gon, the main protagonist of Hunter x Hunter, and a character who at first glance is very happy-go-lucky, very nice, very morally good, you could say, at least when you don't look too deep into who he is as a character. The only person who we've seen has been able to bypass, or at least help Killua bypass Illumi's manipulative tendencies and his ability to control Killua's desires to run away from people stronger, was none other than Gon. And we see that the only way that Gon was able to do this was through manipulative tactics of his own. Now, at this point in the manga and where I'm at as someone who's analyzing and reviewing, it's very ambiguous, to me at least, as to whether or not Gon is intentionally doing this, or rather this is just something out of a lack of care for others. That's kind of where the line gets a little bit blurry. You guys can let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you think this is an intentional manipulation on Gon's part based on what I'm going to be saying in a few minutes? Or do you think this is simply something that he's doing out of lack of empathy for others? In any case, we see that Gon, whereas Illumi uses gaslighting techniques such as making Killua second guess himself, have self-doubts, have fear when he confronts other people, Gon's is a manipulation through their friendship and through Killua's need to have Gon. It's kind of this codependency relationship that they have with each other that kind of breeds this manipulation and this kind of this really abusive type mentality that Gon has towards Killua, and that Killua very easily accepts and puts on his shoulders. What I mean by codependency is this. Killua, for a large majority of the series, is a much more competent fighter than Gon. In terms of talent, they are relative, but in terms of training and experience, it's very easy and clear to tell that for a large majority of the series, Killua is either relative to or has an upper hand to Gon. In terms of his assassination techniques in the very beginning of the series, he could easily wipe the floor with Gon, as he says so himself. And in terms of Nen usage, we see that Killua has abilities that are much more useful in an actual battle by himself than Gon's Jajan Ken is. So we see that Killua is useful to Gon in the sense that he adds power, he adds muscle, and he adds companionship to Gon and his journey to find Jing and kind of figure out why being a hunter was so special. In turn, we see that Killua relies on Gon in multiple ways. One, we see that Killua relies on Gon because Gon is the metaphorical light that took him out of the darkness of the assassination world. Gon is the person who extended his friendship out of curiosity and out of interest in Killua as a person. And as such, Killua feels that he owes it to Gon to be friends with him. He owes it to Gon to do everything in his power to protect him, to give his life up for him. And we see that this is very clear, very distinct, and an example that I like to reference whenever talking about this subject on Greed Island. Case in point, when they're having the little dodgeball game with Razor, we see that when Killua is using his own body as a sacrifice for Gon to release his Jajan-Ken on the actual ball, the dodgeball, to hit at Razor, we realize that Killua is suffering, right? We know that Killua is using his hand, and because of how powerful this attack is, and due to the circumstances, his hands are getting damaged beyond belief, right? They're getting damaged, they're getting torn up, bruised, ripped apart. And we see that Killua doesn't just do this out of necessity, right? It's not necessary. In fact, there was a person who volunteered and had the skill to actually do what Killua was attempting to do, but better and without injuring themselves, right? And Killua refuses this. He doesn't want to. He wants to help Gon. And to show even more that Gon is a manipulative person, even though he knows that Killua has been being injured by this, even though he understands full well that by doing this, by staking this life, his journey, by staking Gon's goals on this game, his desires, his wants to find Jing and get just one step closer to his father, he is fully able to accept that he is sacrificing his best friend, his companion, the person who has stuck by him throughout his entire journey as a hunter. And we see that he allows Killua to continue to harm himself for his sake. Gon is completely fine with Killua sacrificing his body, completely fine with putting his own body on the line for him, and without a second thought, throws another Jajan-Ken at full force, even stronger than all the other ones. If this isn't an example of a codependency relationship, of Killua relying on Gon to survive and to be happy and to enjoy himself and to not dive into these depths of hatred, and Gon using Killua as someone who can help him push forward his own goals, I simply don't know what is. And it is this that leads us to the apex, the climax, if you will, of the discussion. This is why I think Killua is a very big victim in Hunter x Hunter. Yes, I will just flat out say, Killua is a cold-blooded murderer. He's an assassin. He has murdered very many people that didn't necessarily deserve to be killed and slaughtered in ways that they didn't necessarily deserve to be killed or slaughtered in. That is unexcusable. That is a fact of the matter, right? We've seen it on screen, and it's very implied throughout the series. But one thing I will say is this. Killua as a character is someone who has been conditioned, brainwashed, manipulated into doing almost every action until the very end of his journey, where he finally meets up with Alluka and kind of escapes this cycle of manipulation and being controlled by other people. But we see that Killua is essentially used up by Illumi and by Gon. Illumi would use him as kind of like, he wanted to protect his brother, but the only way he was able to full well control him was through just outright manipulation. And with Gon, the crazy thing is, the really insane thing to think about is, the only time Killua actually leaves is once Gon has fulfilled his goal. Gon fulfilled his goal of meeting Jing. And just like someone with a stuffed nose would use a tissue, blow their nose, and throw it out once they're done, it seems to be the case that after Killua revived Gon from the brink of death, after Killua has helped Gon on his journey to find Jing, they part ways, and they both part for an extended period of time that, at least at this point in time, we don't know whether or not they meet back up, if they do ever in the series or ever in life. And it's very sad to think about that from the perspective of a child. Killua is 12 or 13 at best, and throughout his life, he's been nothing but used and manipulated as a character by his family. The people who are in society, it says they're supposed to be the people that stick with you no matter what. These are your people, these are your blood relatives, these are your flesh and blood. These are people that are never supposed to leave you, right? But he was betrayed by them, and we see that he knows he was betrayed by them. But what makes this worse, what makes this sting that much more, is the fact that Gon Freeks, his best friend, his companion, the light to his darkness, as soon as Gon had what he wanted, as soon as he was revived and reached his goals, they parted ways and Killua was used up. That is why I think Killua is a victim of Hunter x Hunter. In any case, as always, this is simply one man's opinion, one man's take on Killua as a character and the relationship that he has with the people around him. Let me know what you think about this. I am very interested to see the discussion that the comments can bring down below, because this was honestly very fun to dive into. A lot of this stuff was on a reread of Hunter x Hunter. I just noticed a lot of things that I feel like, people in real life actually used to manipulate. So I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts on this style of video, this much more, I guess you could say, serious toned video, where I try to put a little bit more into editing than my usual uploads. And just let me know what you guys think about this analysis and type of Hunter x Hunter content in general. If you like it, if this video does well, gets a lot of likes, comments, views, you just, show it support, show it that you guys want these videos, I'll make sure to continue doing something like this, because I have a few more ideas in the Hunter x Hunter category and a lot more in the general analysis, deep dive discussion category. So I am very interested in doing that, as long as you guys are very interested in consuming that content. In any case, links to similar videos and my social media where I do very similar videos like this down in the description below, the cards, and in the end screen. So make sure to go subscribe, do all that good stuff, watch those videos, go to my Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that kind of good stuff. In any case, if you guys did enjoy, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss out on more content like this. I make sure to post 3 to 4 times every day. So if you're interested in that, you know what to do. In any case, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, this is Broken Ronin signing off.